Hello you lovely lot, and welcome back to a brand new video here on my channel. Today, very excitingly, we are going to see the UK tour of Shrek the musical over in Edinburgh, and I am so excited. So what do you say we dive in? Alright, Shrek the musical. It is what it says on the tin. It is a stage musical of the Shrek movies, including some of the well-known songs that we all know and love. And as a result, I am very excited to see how this production gets brought to life. What I do know is that Shrek the musical cost nearly 25 million to put on Broadway, and that it has won several awards specifically for its set design and costuming. And if you know anything about me, you know that it's backstage elements like this that really excite me about the theatre. So I for one cannot wait to see. But we need to go and pick my friend James up before we head on into Edinburgh. So how about we head on over and grab him now? Alright, we have made it to Edinburgh and we picked James up. James, say hi to the vlog. He's not feeling very well, he's got a headache, so if he's a little bit reserved, that is why.
Should I be sounding happily bubbly and American?
We don't have to be sounding happily bubbly and American, but...
Because I am happy and bubbly.
Yeah, well, we are in Edinburgh, we're going to kill some time. We've got plans to go to John Lewis, very exciting.
Of course.
And grab some dinner, which will probably end up being some variation of Five Guys, because this is a Flower Theatre video. But until we actually make it into the theatre, I think me and James are just going to enjoy our time in Edinburgh.
So rare for me.
Not carrying you guys around. Yeah, he's not exactly far from home. But we'll pick you up when we get to the Edinburgh Playhouse. Okay, so we have made it to the Edinburgh Playhouse, which is lit up a kind of browny yellow. Would you like to join? And as you can see, they've got the gorgeous sign up above us. It's very windy, so I apologise about the quality of any of this. But this is what I'm most intrigued about. We have Joanne Clifton as Fiona. I have seen her brother in Strictly Ballroom, so I'm intrigued to see how she does. It's also made me quite nervous for the Are You There God 3-part harmony. But you know, James, do you have any thoughts and feelings you'd like to share about Shrek?
Shrek is green.
He's green apparently, I don't know if you can hear him. He's got a wee small voice for such a big lad. But it's very cold, so we're going to head inside and I will pick you up when we get in there. As you can see, we are now in the Edinburgh Playhouse. And I figured we'd ask James a few questions before we head in to watch Shrek. So, what's your relationship with the... Oh, Jesus Christ, it nearly kicked me in the face. What do you know about Shrek? Just in general.
You know, he's an ogre.
Yeah.
Lives in a swamp.
Yeah.
Doesn't really like people.
No.
No, nor animals.
Not really, no.
No.
Do you know, are you particularly fond of the movies?
Second one.
The second?
Oh, well,
see, I'm a fan of the third one.
Well, that doesn't have the fairy godmother.
I know,
that's the
but
thing.
the third one is my favourite.
You don't get to understand fairy union laws in the third one. You do in the second.
Fair enough. Now, I used to be scared of the Shrek movies as a kid. To the point I remember when the third one came out, everyone in my class was going to see it that night. And I was the only kid that wasn't, because I was scared of Shrek. I don't know why.
Because he leaked you.
Probably. There was just something about Shrek I decided I didn't like. I was happy with Jaws, age 7, but Shrek was a step too far. So, you know, I'm hoping the musical, you know, I would like to point out that I do like Shrek now. I have since watched all of them.
You've grown up.
I've grown up.
Matured.
I've
no longer scared of that.
Exactly.
Money things are scary now.
And as I sort of said at the start of this video, the musical gets exceedingly good reviews. I'm very much a fan of good set, good costumes, and this show has both. So I am very excited to see that. And as I was kind of saying outside, but I don't know if you could have heard from the battering of the wind because of Storm. Is it Storm Aisha? Storm Aisha hitting us quite hard. We have Joanne Clifton in this show, and she is the second of the Clifton siblings I have seen, because they have both left Strictly and since transitioned to musical theatre. She's also, I believe, the voice of Super Hot Lady on the Eugenia's concept album, which is interesting. She never actually made it into the live shows, but her voice is on the album. So I'm intrigued to see how she does tonight. And so if she messes that up, no offence, but I will be offended.
Tomatoes will be thrown.
Yeah, big boos from the audience from us. But you'll be pleased to know that James was the first to say that if anyone was singing near us, they would be getting loudly shushed.
Oh, no,
if not physically harmed. So it's not just me that cares about theatre etiquette, despite the fact it sometimes feels like it. But we are going to sit, we're going to enjoy ourselves, and when it's time to head into the theatre, after a quick stop at the merch stand, we will, of course, be showing you around. We have made it into the theatre, we are in our seats, we have a great view. James, Your face isn't blending in with your beard that much, don't worry.
Yes,
He's worried about the lighting, such a drama queen. But are we excited for the show to begin?
Yes.
What song from the movie are you hoping... It's not just me seeing the Shrek font move. Watch it. Watch it closely. It keeps drifting in and out of focus. Or is it just me? No, look.
Oh yeah.
Okay, it's not just me. I thought I was going crazy. But what song from the show or the
I would
movie
assume,
even?
of course.
That is a very good tune.
Yes.
I'm hoping for a bit of I'm a Believer and maybe a bit of Smash Mouth All Star. I think that made All Star an iconic song for the early 2000s, as if it wasn't already. But yeah, so I'm going to give you guys a little view of the set. It's absolutely stunning, very fairy tale-esque, and I'm excited to see what they do with it.
Wait, I can reach onto your side instead.
You can't man-spread into me.
But you're like...
You're coming to the Edinburgh Playhouse, and you are tall. Maybe bring a short friend so that you can take their leg room. Just a bit of advice. This is one thing to note, is if you've got long legs, it's maybe not the theatre for you. I'm about 5'8", so I've got a bit of room. James, how tall are you?
6'3".
There is no clearance. Flora here. They were supposed to be halfway through Interval Thoughts and Feelings, but James got lost on his way up to the bar. So we didn't get any of those because by the time he got to the bar, alas, the interval was over.
A little bit softer now.
Alright, so we just got out of Shrek. We are now sat in the car.
Oh no, we didn't.
Oh yes, we did. Giving them the content they want, James.
Thank you.
So, thoughts?
As an amateur thespian, I would say, unironically, the best parts
The lights are, yeah.
were anything with Farquaad. I think you'd agree with that.
Yeah, I would.
And like the henchman.
Yeah.
And then anything of the fairy tale creatures.
The gang.
Like their song
Yeah.
with Gingy
Yeah, the
singing
freak
away.
flag.
The freak flag.
And
It was
Gingy's
good.
voice.
I know.
Oh my
Gingy
god.
and the dragon.
She was the tiniest human being ever, but the noise she got out of her.
The note she could reach.
Like.
Now, when my voice is strong, I can do a good Gingy impression.
Pavarotti over here.
However,
It was impressive. And no, he's right, the dragon was really good as well.
Scottish accent, of course.
I think, did you know Shrek was originally supposed to have a Canadian accent?
I'm Shrek, eh?
Yeah.
You want some...
Like, and then they were like, when they cast, what's his name that voices him? I don't know who.
Completely forgotten his name.
But when
Mike
they
Myers.
Yeah, when they cast the guy who voiced Shrek, they were like, actually, we prefer his Scottish accent. And I will say, there were some questionable accents in the show tonight.
I don't think his was awful. It wasn't
alright.
Mel Gibson in Braveheart.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't terrible.
It was like the narrator and Shrek's parents were really quite dodgy.
Christ, yeah.
And in a theatre in Scotland, I think that was... I would be terrified, if I'm being perfectly honest. I would be shitting myself.
Thank God you used swear words first. I was unsure.
No, this is I never claimed to be a good role model on my page anywhere.
No.
My last vlog was me and Katie drinking champagne from the bottle, I mean. But...
yeah.
I think you're right. Anything with Farquaad and Farquaad's men.
I didn't know how much of an icon he apparently was.
He's fabulous.
Isn't he?
Honestly, Farquaad in the movie is nowhere near as good as
He's just
Farquaad.
he's got wee man
He's got
syndrome.
short man syndrome. But in the Like, they flesh him out because they've got more time in the musical. They made him Grumpy's son.
Tragic backstory.
They made
abandoned
him
in the woods.
Abandoned in the woods at the age of 28. They made him Grumpy's kid, and that's why he's not as tall as everyone else. Weirdly, when they're like, all of the fairy tale creatures being rounded up and sent away, that's the same plot as Wicked. All the talking animals getting rounded up and sent away.
But
like,
did you have a cross-dressing wolf in Wicked?
No, we didn't.
That red dress. Fabulous.
And the fact they called it out. There was a whole line about it. And I love, what was it? The line, there was lots of gags about the fairy tale characters. Peter Pan, I'll never grow up. You're 35 and need to shave. I'm a real boy. And it's like, I don't remember in the movie, bearing in mind it's been a while. Ooh, someone's lighting us up with their Mazda headlights.
Thank God.
I don't remember the Pinocchio being so cynical. No, I just remember him being really annoying.
You know what I mean? They're in prison. This might be in 2 or 3. They're imprisoned, and Gingy goes, tell us a lie. And it's better when my voice is dead. And Pinocchio's like, oh, I don't know one. And Gingy says, oh, say I'm wearing women's underwear. And Pinocchio goes, I am wearing women's underwear. And his nose doesn't expand. Do you remember these scenes?
I couldn't tell you the last time I watched any Shrek movie.
Wow. Well.
Easily 4 years ago.
You're just a recreation now.
But me and James both said as we were leaving the theatre, we really wanted to watch them. So, it's done its job, I guess, in terms of, like, continuing the Shrek story. I don't know.
Fairy Godmother, underused.
Yeah. I do feel like the Fairy Godmother could have been
They could have set up a musical sequel.
Yeah.
I don't know how well, have there ever been done?
Well, there's 2-parters.
But they could have done that as the Fairy Godmother being at the end.
Because Shrek 2 is most people's favourite.
As it should
I would say.
Where have all the good men gone?
Yeah. And then, obviously, I'll touch on this in my full review that I'll do after this. But the set was somewhat disappointing. It was mostly screens. And the projector was out of focus. Yes.
Costumes, though.
Yeah.
I thought all of the background characters better dressed than the main ones.
Yeah. Shrek's costume was really... I get the majority of the budget for Shrek's costume went on the prosthetics.
No, but the White Rabbit or whatever it was.
The White Rabbit had this really elaborate costume. The Fairy Godmother had a gorgeous outfit. The bears had these lovely fur coats. Even Peter Pan and Tinkerbell were pretty lavishly dressed. And then you've got, Shrek and Fiona.
I know what you've said about set, but some of them I thought really worked. The dungeon.
The dungeon and the
really
swamp.
Well, and the swamp worked really well.
I think it was just most.
The dragon bit when you had the crap.
yeah, that was good.
It was kind of when it was
to be the wind. That's mad.
Left to be an open space is when you saw.
Yeah.
All its.
Yeah, when it was just a screen.
A barn and...
I get it's a touring show, but I think it is also sort of, unfortunately, particularly when your local theatre is a touring theatre, you're always going to compare the show you're seeing to the show you last saw there, and for me that was Wicked. So, you can understand, Wicked was there for a month, they have a bigger set, they have a bigger budget, I imagine. Saying this as if I, am their accountant and know how much they're spending on all of this. But... I would say, in comparison to Wicked, the show and the performers were equally as good, but the set was lackluster. From what I know, Shrek can look like. It's been staged in the past with a full tower, and stuff. Whereas this was a bed. And bearing in mind I come from a high school where our high school theatre bought a helicopter purely so we could stage Miss Saigon and flex on the local community. When a professional production is a bit lackluster, I'm my high school could have done it better. And I know that's so snob. James keeps being I'm just not a snob, and I'm
well, I am a snob.
Maybe I am
a
snob. He shops at M&S. I mean, so do I, but I don't proclaim to be anything other than
all of the art department making a trench for 4 months for our school show.
What did you do?
It's a local production.
Is it an original?
No, it's a show about like PALS battalions in the First World War.
Okay.
I thought you said
Never
I
heard
don't
of it.
care.
I said I don't know.
Oh.
Okay, I think any final thoughts before we wrap this up, because we probably should drive home before.
Oh, rating out of 10.
Oh, I do ratings out of 5.
Oh,
'cause I
rating
think
out
it
of
makes
where
it-
you can make like that's the same thing. Like a 3.5 is a 7.
7, yeah.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah, I know, but I
Oh,
think
out of 5.
I'm not gonna put. Okay, out of 5, I want to give it like no more than a 3,
Oh.
which is harsh, but it's more a 3 because it's like I've ticked it off, and I'm not gonna like if someone was like, you had to watch a variation of Shrek tomorrow or else the nuclear codes are getting leaked, I don't think the musical would be my top choice.
Well, I would agree with you on that, but I would go for 3.5 personally. I thought the singing, costume design, gags brought it up to that, where set and
Yeah.
some things
It
let
was
it down.
definitely like, if I was to describe it with one word, it'd definitely be campy. Like, it's not taking itself seriously. Like, there is a lot of fart jokes. Like, you know.
Farquaad, I'm pretty sure, goes like, oh, that. about
Yeah,
8
he was
times.
quite like hair toss. You're very queer coded, which I love. Because I always feel like a queer coded villain is a better villain than a straight villain. It just is funnier. But yeah, so we've got a 3 and a 3.5. But there you have our quick reviews. I'm of course going to give a full review when
Without
I
me.
get home without James, because I've got to drop him off because it's his bedtime. This is the first time we've like hung out one-on-one and I took you to see
God help me.
Shrek the musical. Anyway, this is what stagey friends are for, guys. And if no one will come with you willingly, you just have to make them. I bribed him with a free holiday, to be fair.
Je suis désolé, je n'ai pas de parole.
Alright, I will see you when I get home for my full review. Say goodbye, James.
Goodbye, James.
Thank you, that's what I was expecting you to do. I'll see you later. Alright, we are home, so you guys know what that means. It is time for me to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about Shrek the Musical. Now, I feel like there is definitely a lot more good to say about this than bad and ugly, but I still do have something to point out in each of these categories. I'd also like to make it known that the bad and the ugly categories are by no means a reflection of the talent of the people on stage, more just my personal tastes, thoughts, and feelings. So with that out of the way, let's dive into the good. The first good thing I would like to point out is definitely going to be the choreography. The choreography throughout this show definitely blew me away. I have never seen so much energy and movement on stage before. The ensemble were moving and grooving. They did not slow down at any point throughout this show. During Freak Flag and I'm a Believer, they were literally moving at like 110%, as I'm sure you will have seen in some of the clips of the bows that I showed you guys. Some ensemble highlights for me are definitely going to be Sony Greaveson, who was Peter Pan, who was moving and grooving like there is no tomorrow, as well as Natasha Kayabayab, I'm so sorry if I have said that wrong, who was young Shrek, Baby Bear, young Fiona, and a dwarf, think Grumpy. I think the ability to chop and change roles so quickly is absolutely amazing. I can barely memorize one role, so the fact that they are doing multiple roles within one show, all of which require different energy and different personalities, I think is absolutely amazing. One thing I will say that shocked me about this cast was how many people I had seen in other things before. I cannot place him, but Sunny, the guy playing Peter Pan, I have definitely seen in something before. Though reading through his credits, I literally could not tell you what that is. So maybe he's just got a really familiar face and is really reminding me of someone. But there you are. There was also Rory Shafford, who I feel like a lot of people will remember from Newsies, which of course is amazing. I've also seen him in the UK tour of Book of Mormon. And Jonathan David Dudley, who I think I've also seen in Book of Mormon. There was a lot of Book of Mormon represented on the stage, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. And so, yeah, the energy and commitment those guys gave to the choreography, I think was probably the biggest standout to me. I feel like there's very few shows these days that have such big dance numbers. There was a tap number, which I wasn't expecting, which I loved. So I feel like the fact that these guys were able to move so in sync and pull off this amazing choreography was amazing. I think another highlight for me that cannot be overlooked definitely has to be the costumes. James and I obviously touched on this in our little sort of in the car post-show interview, and they were stunning. Sometimes you find that ensemble get like basic costumes, whereas because of all of the ensemble in this were fairy tale characters, they each needed their own detailed and gorgeous costume, and so the costuming department, 10 out of 10 for that. I can see why when this was originally staged, costumes took up so much of the budget, and it definitely shines through. I think weirdly, again, James and I touched on this, the costumes for the fairy tale characters in some way were almost better. Like, Joanne's dress, weirdly, looked very cheap. In comparison, like, it looked very Party City, and I don't know why. Maybe it was just the fact that it was made of like velvet and stuff, which can often look slightly sort of cheap and costumey. But there was that, because obviously you've got to account for prosthetics and things when considering Fiona and Shrek 2. Costumes and choreography aside, I have to point out some of my highlight performances. James Gillan as Lord Farquaad, amazing. Like, I think Farquaad was definitely a highlight of the show for me. I mean, he's such an entertaining and interesting character in the movies, but I kind of touched on the fact that they've kind of made him this like queer icon. There was a lot of like hair flipping and sort of like girl throughout the show, and I really liked that. I feel like giving him queer undertones definitely puts a different twist on the character, and I also like the fact that he was kind of like, you know, a grumpy child, like sort of stamping his foot when things wouldn't go his way and stuff like that. I thought that was absolutely brilliant, and James Gillan did such a fantastic job of portraying that. Anthony Banks as Shrek was also great. His voice was amazing. I don't know if he's Scottish or not, so if someone knows, let me know in the comments, but his Scottish accent was by far the strongest in the show, as I do feel like it's quite a hard accent to do, especially when you're being asked to sing in a Scottish accent. Most people, you know, leave that to the wayside. There's very few people who can do it and can do it convincingly. So great job to Anthony for that. And then Cherie Richards and Georgie Buckland, who played the dragon / Wicked Witch and the gingerbread man. Their vocals, I think, were probably the best of the show. Like, stunning. Just, that's the only word I have to describe it. Like, it was amazing, like giving you chills. Like, the audience was whooping and cheering the loudest for their songs, and for good reason. Another highlight of the show is going to be the, I don't know how you describe them, the Dragon's Prisoners. It was these four, oh, I held up 3 fingers. It was these 4 older guys, and they almost became like a boy band and backing group for the dragon when she was singing her songs. And their gags and things throughout that like scene were hilarious. I really loved them. Plus the vocals were really good. And speaking of the dragon puppet was great. It was really dynamic and really did take up quite a lot of room on the stage, which gave this very imposing sense of like, oh, okay, the dragon is a big deal. I always love any use of puppetry on stage, and the fact that they were able to deliver this was brilliant. And the dragon puppet looked almost identical to the dragon in the movie, so that is brilliant as well. So there is a lot to praise about this show, and I want you guys to bear that in mind as I go into the bad and the ugly. And again, before anyone jumps to any conclusions, this is not a reflection of the performers, more just a reflection of my personal preferences. The first bad for me was Fiona as a character. Now, Joanne Clifton, I'm sure, is a very wonderful woman. I have never met her before, but her take on Fiona was very millennial, not like other girls, if that makes sense. It just wasn't necessarily landing for me. It felt like she, as Fiona, was trying too hard to be like quirky and unique, whereas I feel like in my interpretation of Fiona as a character, she's a lot more sort of self-confident and very like snappy and sarcastic, and I just didn't feel like that was coming across in Joanne's portrayal. That being said, of course, her dancing was fantastic, and she very much had this sort of fun, bubbly energy on stage, so I do really like that. Brandon Lee Sears, who plays Donkey as well, was just another performance that didn't land for me. James really liked his performance as Donkey. It was just, I don't know, I feel like jarring's not quite the right word, but I feel like Donkey is such an iconic character that it must be really difficult to sort of strike a chord with the original version whilst also making it your own, and to some extent it did feel like he was doing an impression. Donkey very much felt like a character that was there for the kids to giggle at as opposed to anything else, and I just struggled with that a little bit. But again, vocals great, so I can't really fault him on that, and he must have been boiling in that costume under all the stage lights. I'm surprised he didn't sweat all his makeup off, so shout out to him for that. But those are just my only sort of little critiques or nitpicks. Again, it completely comes from just a personal taste as opposed to anything else, but I did want to share that with you guys. And now it is time to move on to the ugly. Now, at the beginning of this video, I said I was very much looking forward to the set, and I think the set is probably what let this show down the most. I have never been to a show that has used so much sort of projection and digital backgrounds as opposed to physical sets. Now, I know what Shrek the Musical can look like. I know there's been stagings of it that have had Fiona's full tower and things like that. And so I feel like I just felt a bit shortchanged when it came to the use of projections. Now, I've said it earlier that I know it's a touring set, and therefore you do have to take into consideration transportation costs, the size of the pieces you are bringing, and how many trucks all of that needs to like fit onto. But I do feel like more physical set would have been beneficial, because the physical set that was there was really great. I do feel like the projections of the sets were also let down by the fact that a lot of time it wasn't in focus. Now, I don't know if that was a fault of the projectors or maybe something that hadn't been checked, or perhaps to do with the fact that there could be multiple layers and therefore even sitting slightly off centre makes everything blur. I don't know, but that was a little bit disappointing as well. And this was opening night in Edinburgh, and I found this before when going to see shows on opening night when they are touring. The audio can often be quite hit or miss because they've not quite got the levels right, or the sound system's slightly different to what they worked with at a previous theatre. And so because of that, sometimes it can be a little hard to hear vocals over the orchestra. Now, it did improve with the show, and I don't know whether that was my ears just getting used to it, or whether they tweaked the levels here and there, as remixing the sound is something that can happen throughout the show if you've got the right sound team. But that did mean that sort of the opening song was quite jarring to listen to, just because you were having to strain to listen to the lyrics. And when you can't hear what's being said on stage, you can feel quite a disconnect with the show. But there you have it, guys. There are my final thoughts and feelings on Shrek the Musical. Now, in all of my reviews, I have stuck by giving it a 3 out of 5. This definitely wasn't a bad show, but it also isn't going to be a show that I'm going to rush back and see, at least not on tour. I do think it's a show that rests on the laurels of the fact that everybody likes Shrek. It makes some improvements here and there. I love the expansion on Farquaad's character, as I've mentioned, and I also love how they bring the various fairy tale characters to life. I do just think it got let down by the somewhat disappointing set, but the people around me were having a great time. It is a phenomenal show for families to go and see, especially if maybe you don't want to go and see one of the Disney shows, but there certainly is appeal for those going without kids as well. If you've seen Shrek the Musical, I want you guys to let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. And if you want more vlogs and reviews like this in the future, make sure you are subscribed for more. I do have some very fun videos on the way. I'm going to see Jesus Christ Superstar. I'm also going to see Hades Town, and there's a plan to go and see Peter Pan Goes Wrong as well. So a lot of very exciting theatre trips coming up. So if, like I said, you want to catch those, make sure you're subscribed. And as always, my lovelies, remember to stay stagey. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye!